What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Football Friday. TGIFF. Thank gosh it's Football Friday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online. Hit it up at sportstalk1051.com. You can also stream it up over there. You got your up and rolling on the YouTube page. Make sure you're subscribing to that, following that page because we got other stuff going on over there. And of course, up on Facebook as well. But happy Friday, wrapping up the week. Appreciate you making us part of your start if you're already, up and at it here this morning. What do we got on a good old game plan for us this morning? Well, with it being a football Friday, you know the drill. Taking a look at Packers taking on the Cardinals this weekend on Sunday there. We'll preview it, keys to victory, key matchups, all that usual stuff that we do on a Friday morning. We'll take a look at all that. One nugget of notes, we've got Luke Musgrave. He's going to be going on the injured reserve, dealing with an ankle injury, so he's going to be missing at least 4 games over there. But other than that, pretty much the same practice report. However, Tucker Kraft was also added to the injury report yesterday, dealing with a groin injury. So hopefully that won't affect him for his game coming up against the Cardinals this weekend. So, but we'll, as I said, we'll do some keys to victory, key matchups, and your predictions. All right, hit me up with your predictions. 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen texting line. So we got that. We're going to talk some college football coming up here too. We got the Badgers, we know, in action this weekend. Tomorrow going up against Rutgers, but we got some good games, a few good games on the slate for college football. Obviously, that big one, Ohio State, number 2 Ohio State, taking on number 3 Oregon in a prime Big Ten matchup. Still weird to say. Number 9 Ole Miss taking on number 13 LSU, also this weekend. So we'll hit up some college football chat on here with a few good games on the slate here. We got that coming at you. We're going to talk with Dr. Crow, do some inside the training room with him just under an hour, maybe about an hour from now, a little under an hour from now. Dr. Crow, Chuba Valley Orthopedics and sports medicine. So we'll chat with him. We'll talk a little bit about throwing Christian Watson's ankle injury and such. So good to talk to the doc. Always a good time talking with Dr. Crow. After that, Brandon Berg, our good buddy Brandon Berg, will be joining us to finish up the program. We'll do some local sports roundup with him as we inch closer and closer to the final regular season games for high school football. We're approaching some are already in it. It's postseason play for our fall sports, fall prep sports. So we'll do some local sports roundup with Brandon. He'll break it all down for us. I know it's also homecoming for the Blue Golds, Blue Gold football in action tomorrow, taking on Stevens Point. So a lot of busy stuff going on. No doubt about it. In our general area, all over the state, depending on where you're listening to us from. Do a little roll call. Kinda just I wanna know where you're listening from, alright? Just give me a little nod. Give me a little text or tweet, Facebook, comment on the video stream. Let's do a little roll call. Just kinda curious to see where everybody's at here. So, we got that. We got a little cream of the crop. You guys can always play along with cream of the crop with Brandon and myself. Who's your selections? Who's your picks for the cream of the crop? Also, if you wanna give a shout out to one of your to maybe your high school football team or any sport. I mean, any high school any high school sports team that may be in action tonight or this weekend. You want to give a shout out to them? We'll give you a shout out for. We'll give a shout out to them for you. Okay. again, just the quickest and easiest way, text that puppy on over, okay? So we'll get to that, as well. We'll throw some baseball chat in here. We have, the Yankees back in the ALCS, so they're going there, but, the Guardians extending it. And so we got a game 5 between the Tigers and the Guardians. We've got, obviously the Dodgers and Padres also for a game 5, coming up here too. So while the Mets await to see who they play, now the Yankees will wait and see who they play. San Diego and Los Angeles will be at in action tonight to finish up that series, and then Saturday, Detroit at Cleveland for the final game 5. Detroit's gonna be throwing, Skubal out there, so that's it. That series has been a fun series, Detroit versus Cleveland. It's been a close series, it's been a fun series, so, I'm looking forward to that Saturday night matchup between Detroit and Cleveland, no doubt. We had some Bucks, preseason action last night too, going up against the Lakers. LeBron did play, so even though he wasn't happy about hopping on a plane and playing and such, he played a little bit last night, but, maybe a little bit, nervous for some Bucks fans. Saw Dame get, dinged up a little bit with an ankle injury and such, but Bobby Portis had himself a night, 23 points, 8 of 9, shooting from the field there. So, Bobby Portis, having himself a night. Giannis in just 20 minutes, 20 points, 7 rebounds. Dame did play 19 minutes, 8 points, 4 assists as well. So, AJ Johnson, that might be the guy to maybe watch a little bit. I know we got a couple newcomers here with Gary Trent Jr. and Prince and such, but Doc Rivers, man, was it a couple weeks ago already when they did the media day for the Bucks and that? And he made it a point to talk about AJ Green and the offseason he's had and, or, yeah, AJ Green and such, but, we'll see what maybe his role is gonna be this year, but, AJ Johnson, we've got a couple of AJs. AJ Johnson, though, for the Bucks last night, he played 22 minutes and had 13 points. So, we might throw some hoops talk in there too. WNBA action, if you're watching that, that was an entertaining game last night. Lynx down by double digits. They came back to force overtime and defeated the Liberty in overtime in game 1 of the WNBA finals last night. So we got plenty of action coming at you. Let's get things rolling here this morning on the leadoff. Typical football Friday. I want your keys to victory, your key matchups, and then your predictions for the game on Sunday against the Cardinals. See if the Pack can move to 4-2 on the season. What are what do you, in your opinion, what is the biggest keys to victory and what are the biggest, matchups in this game? We'll kinda break it down as normal too. We'll give you some of the numbers and a little bit of a background on the Cardinals just to give you a little bit of an idea. Obviously, we know Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., but overall, some other numbers, to kinda throw out there and maybe kinda tip the hand of what Green Bay wants to do, is gonna plan to do, specifically on the offensive side and maybe a little bit on the defensive side as well. So I will say one thing: I do hope Jair is good to go. I'd like to see him matched up against Marvin Harrison Jr., but again, limited this week. We'll see if he's going to be able to give it a go coming up on Sunday. Oh, and you're kind of looking at not. I'm not looking too far ahead. I kind of am because I'll be taking Hudson to the Texans game next week, but they don't have to deal with Nico Collins, who's been having another solid year here, but still got Diggs, and we know Diggs and Jair have a little bit of a history there too of jawing back and forth. So I'm sure Jair is looking forward to that matchup and making sure he's going to be able to go out there on the field next week. But still like him hopefully, to be out there against Marvin Harrison Jr. So let's uh let's get things going here this morning. All right. Start to hit me up with those messages. All right. Do a little roll call. Where are you listening from? And then give me your keys to victory, key matchups, plus any shout outs here this morning. All right. Let's rock and roll. First break coming up, and then we'll jump right into this thing. Packers taking on the Cardinals on this football Friday. Let's break it down. Let's preview it. All that good stuff. We'll be back to get things rolling here in just a couple minutes. Tailgate with Hy-Vee this tailgating season. Whether it's food, snacks, some Dan Good burgers, beverages like some 6 packs of Man Cave Lights, or maybe you need some apparel to represent your favorite teams. They got it all over at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. So make sure you stop on by. And next week too, they've got. Remember last year they did the salmon thing where they had salmon over there and fillet it up for you, fresh salmon. So that's coming up next week too. So we'll learn a little bit more about that a little bit later on here this morning. But if you're looking for maybe you're going to the game this weekend, maybe you're going to homecoming for the Blue Golds and such, and you're going to be doing a little tailgating, you can grab your supplies at Hy-Vee, plus get some Blue Gold swag over there too. Some accessories like some can koozies or apparel too. So you can get everything over at our good friends from Hy-Vee. I wish Dave saying his elbow room prediction is that I'll get a big buck this weekend. And I wish you're right. We'll say that I did move my trail cam. Was it last Friday? And then I moved it to a different spots. I got one of those cameras that texts you the photos and that. I had a nice one, like a few hours. Not more, a little bit more than a few hours that night. Text one, and then it hasn't showed back up. But I got the juices flowing when I saw that nice one. And then nothing after that, because of course. So, but who knows, right? Can't get it if you don't go out there. Can't get it if you don't go out there. So, all right, let's get things rolling here this morning, shall we? Let's do the leadoff, talking some pack, taking a look at the Cardinals. I was blanking on the team there, man. I am ready for the weekend. All right, keys to victory, key matchups, predictions for the Pack going up against the Cardinals. Let's break it down. Looking at this matchup. First, let's start off with the Cardinals and their offense. Okay, let's take a look at the Cardinals and their offense right now. If you look at it from a total offensive standpoint, we're looking at yards per game. Okay, Cardinals are about middle of the pack in the NFL. Cardinals are about middle of the pack. They're averaging 338 yards per game. To put this in perspective here a little bit, Green Bay is the 4th highest team in the National Football League with 392.6 yards per game. So they got the 4th highest. That's still pretty darn impressive when you had 2 games where you weren't pretty much throwing the football with Malik Willis. So the fact that Green Bay is still averaging 392.6, which is the 4th highest, I think is pretty impressive. The 3 teams ahead of them is Baltimore, 447.6. Well, you got Lamar and Derrick Henry there. San Francisco and Detroit. Washington is behind. Actually, Green Bay and Washington are tied 392.6. So when you break it down a little bit further, you look at the passing yards. Arizona's about bottom third of the league. They're averaging about 181.6 yards through the air, which is actually tied with the Buffalo Bills, which is kind of interesting with Josh Allen and such over there. But they're bottom third. Green Bay, 2, 4, 6, 8. They're 10th highest in passing yards, 227.8 yards per contest. Green Bay, we know, is 3rd highest in rushing yards per game, 164.8. And for the Cardinals here, this is where they've kind of made their money with the offensive game, has been on the ground. They are the 5th highest team in the National Football Game, averaging 156.4 yards per game. And a lot of that has to do with a couple players. One, James Conner, feel like James Conner has been around for a long time. I don't know why. I mean, he was drafted in 2017, which, I mean, 7 years ago, and maybe for a running back, that's kind of fairly long. But I feel like James Conner's been around for almost forever, former Pittsburgh running back, and kind of carving out a nice career the last few years with the Cardinals here. But James Conner has the seventh most rushing yards in the league. He has 379 yards. He is averaging 4.6 yards per carry and has 3 touchdowns. To put it in perspective, Josh Jacobs is still the fourth highest rusher in the league, 402 yards on the ground. But James Conner has been a big focal point, obviously, with this offense for the Cardinals, with running the football. But also when you have a quarterback like Kyler Murray on your squad, Kyler Murray, he's 20th in the league in passing yards at 972, but he's been efficient in passing, 7 touchdowns to just two interceptions. His completion percentage has been 68.1%. That's been pretty darn solid over there. But you also have to factor in the rushing yards when it comes to Kyler Murray. And that's where he can break you. And that's where he can make things really difficult on you. Looking at his rushing yards this year, 247 yards. 247 yards on the ground rushing. If we were to put him, actually, he's probably on here, 247. Yeah, so Kyler Murray is 23rd in the league in rushing yards. Okay, 23rd in the league in rushing yards. That's more than Tony Pollard from the Tennessee Titans. That's more than Travis Etienne from the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's more than Kenneth Walker from Seattle. It's not the highest quarterback with rushing yards. Lamar Jackson's the top 10 rusher. In fact, he's got the 8th most rushing yards in the league. And then you got Jaden Daniels on there at 16. But you look at Kyler Murray and you got to factor in what he can do with his legs, what he can do in the running game. And that's when you've got James Conner who's having success and Kyler Murray who's having success running the football. You got to be on your toes. You got to be paying attention there. Receiving wise, when you look at it, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy that everybody kind of knows. The rookie wide receiver from Ohio State. Obviously, we have seen him quite a bit. If you are a Badgers fan or Gophers fan, whatever, from Big Ten action, right? And Marvin Harrison Jr. is leading the team in receiving yards with 279. You also got Michael Wilson on there, who's got 216 receiving yards. Trey McBride, their tight end, 175. But Marvin Harrison Jr. also has 4 touchdowns. Had that big game, just what was it, week 2 of this season, where I know a lot of those numbers too come from that game against the Rams. Yeah, it was week 2 against the Rams when they put up 41 against them. He had 4 catches on 8 targets for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. But against Detroit, and yeah, when you kind of look at it against Detroit after that, he had 64 yards and a touchdown, 45 yards and a touchdown against Washington. And then last week against San Francisco, 2 catches, 36. So, yeah, I understand a lot of those numbers that Marvin Harrison Jr. put up came from one game. But he's still a dangerous threat. Even though he's a rookie, he's still a dangerous threat over there. Defensively for the Cardinals now, when we take a look at where they kind of stand up or compare, if you will, to the rest of the NFL in terms of defense. Total defense, again, yards given up per game, they're in the bottom third. In fact, the teams, there's only a handful of teams that have given up more yards defensively than the Cardinals. It's the Bengals, it's the Eagles, it's the Panthers, it's the Rams, it's the Bucks, it's the Jags, and the Colts. Green Bay's only just a few spots ahead, though. Green Bay has given up 345.8 yards per game. Arizona, 360.6. If we break it down, passing yards, okay, giving up through the air, Arizona's been better than Green Bay. Arizona's about middle of the pack, okay? They've allowed 212.8 yards through the air. Green Bay, 231.6. Okay. This actually kind of surprised me a little bit. But Green Bay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11th best rushing defense. I'm going to be honest, that kind of surprised me a little bit. They're allowing 114 on the ground. But I was like, all right, 11th? I would have thought maybe in the 20s. But that's what it is right now. Arizona, this is where they've struggled defensively in stopping the run. Okay? Just like last week, Packers going up against a defensive unit that has struggled against the run. But the Rams did a pretty good job last week containing the run, going up against Josh Jacobs and such. But Arizona this year has given up or has allowed 147.8 yards on the ground. So a lot like last week, that would tell you, man, is this a game for Josh Jacobs? Is this a game for him to get the rock quite a bit? Obviously, a lot's going to depend on the flow of the game. If Green Bay's playing ahead, if they're controlling the clock and they don't got to play a little behind. But here's a nugget. And this is from Pro Football Focus, where if you got a Josh Jacobs in your fantasy lineup, maybe you're feeling pretty good. So Josh Jacobs this year has 304 rushing yards after contact this season. That's third best among running backs. The Cardinals defense ranks 29th in yards after contact allowed to running backs. All right, so you've got one of the best running backs in the National Football League in terms of yards after contact, going up against one of the worst rushing defenses in terms of allowing yards after contact. So it would seem like, okay, that, again, on the surface, huge advantage to Green Bay, huge advantage to Josh Jacobs. That would be a key to victory, in my opinion. Getting Josh Jacobs going here and feeding him the ball. Again, a lot is going to depend on how the flow of the game is going to go in this thing. Is Green Bay playing from behind? Are they able to win on the early downs? Put themselves into short manageable situations, winning on first down, right? Maybe if, you get into a 2nd and 5 or get into that 3rd and 1, those winnable downs, those short situations. That's what Green Bay's got to do to maintain the running game and have success in the running game, is not having quick 3 and outs, kind of what they did last week against the Rams, not having those short drives, winning time of possession, but also defensively, not allowing Arizona to kind of do the same thing, not allowing Arizona's offense to have long sustained drives, getting Arizona's offense off the field after 3rd down, not allowing, 3rd and short and 3rd in those manageable downs. Packers defense can't do that either. But you look at this and this has got to be a Josh Jacobs game. And you look at his last 3 games, kind of waiting for another Colts type of performance, right? Where he had 32 carries for $151. Since then, Tennessee was 14 carries for 43, Minnesota 9 carries for 51, and then against the Rams, who have the worst rushing defense, 19 carries for 73 yards. So I'm looking for a Josh Jacobs type of game. But again, it's going to depend on the flow, and it's going to depend on if Green Bay can win those early downs and have success on early downs so they can continue to run the football and defensively keeping Arizona's offense off the field and not allowing them to not allow or Green Bay not playing from behind. Another key to victory, another key matchup going on the defensive side here for Green Bay. And well, it's going to be, can they stop the run? They did a really good job in the first 2 weeks of the season defensively in containing Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson, two mobile quarterbacks. They did a really good job at that, of containing those two quarterbacks, especially earlier on in the game, from not extending plays, from not stepping up in the pocket, hitting the edge, and really beating them with their legs. Green Bay's defense did a good job of doing that contained kind of pass rush and such. And they got to do the same against Kyler Murray this weekend. They got to be able to have those disciplined pass rush, those stay in their lanes, kind of collapse that pocket around him. Now, Kyler Murray is a little bit more, I mean, he's definitely smaller than Anthony Richardson. Height-wise, I think they're about the same with Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts is a little bit bigger. Kyler Murray can squeak through some of those little lanes and little holes. It might be a little bit more difficult to 100% contain Kyler Murray from scrambling around and trying to find some of those lanes to pick up some yards using his legs. But that defensive front, those linemen, those down linemen have to do a good job of being disciplined in their lanes. And I don't think this is a game where we really have to focus on sack numbers or anything like that. Now, it's not to say you don't want any pressure. You want pressure. You want pressure, and you want to make Kyler Murray nervous, have some happy feet in that pocket. And yeah, you want to get some pressure and get some quarterback hits on him. But it's all you don't want to be overly aggressive where you're allowing him to have this wide open lane on the left side, right side, in the middle to where he can scamper for 15 yards. So you want to get that contained pressure, that disciplined pressure on Kyler Murray, make him nervous there, but again, not allowing him to pick up those first downs. And also to slow down James Conner, who's having a solid season so far. So the running game is James Conner and Kyler Murray. That's kind of where they're at with these two. Can you slow those guys down? Can that defensive line from Green Bay stop the run, clog up those lanes? And then, that's where the second level then of that defense is another key here is, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, Edrin Cooper. Those guys are those, especially if Kyler Murray is going to be able to scramble. Do they play a little quarterback spy? I'm kind of curious to see, if we were doing some key players or players to watch. A couple players for me to watch might be the two rookie safeties in this, Javon Bullard and Evan Williams. I'm kind of curious to see if they play Javon Bullard a little bit more in that box towards the line of scrimmage to kind of help out containing Kyler Murray, getting after Kyler Murray, maybe playing a little quarterback spy in that aspect. And Evan Williams, to me is we saw his speed and his timing and his reaction speed on display, full display last week against the Rams. So I'm very curious to see if Jeff Hafley utilizes those guys more in trying to slow down Kyler Murray and James Conner in their legs, especially maybe a Javon Bullard playing more in the box and playing more towards the line of scrimmage to kind of help out with that. But there's no question this is a game too for Quay Walker to show off his athleticism sideline to sideline. Same for Edgerrin Cooper, same for Isaiah McDuffie and the rest of those linebackers. Don't allow Kyler Murray and James Conner to reach past those second levels, to reach the second, third levels of your defense. Keep them in front of you. So this is a test, I think, for this defense, for this Jeff Hafley defense, for this Packers defense, defensive front. Can you slow down the run? Can you have that disciplined yet consistent pressure on the line where you're collapsing the pocket and you're stopping the run? And, going back to the Packers offense, I think, for the next couple weeks, at least the next few weeks, we're going to keep eyes on Jordan Love to see improvement. You look at some of the numbers, and I know he's missed a couple of games, and he's only got 3 games into this thing. But I still, like I said earlier in the week, I think it's fair to say that we want to see a little bit better play from Jordan Love. And it's not to say he's been awful, and he's been dealt with some drops from his receivers. There's no question about it. But there's been some poor play from Love, whether it's still rust and such. I don't know. And I'm not panicking about Jordan Love by any means, but it's fair to say, all right, there's room for improvement. There's room to get better. So I think we're going to kind of keep tabs on that every week going in here. But also, the big thing out there is what's the reaction going to be like or what's the game plan going to be like? You throw in Romeo Doubs into that equation. What's that going to look like? But outside of all that, I'm just kind of curious too. How do they continue to get Jayden Reed the football, and how do they continue to keep Jayden Reed kind of that Swiss Army knife, versatile playmaker within this offense? The different ways to keep him a dangerous threat on the offensive side. That's another thing that I'm kind of excited about to see, or maybe curious is the best word, is to see how they can continue to get him involved and really affect games out there too. And then one more, on the defensive side here too, we know Green Bay turnover machines so far this year on the defensive side. I know everybody's going to be wondering, can Xavier McKinney get another pick? Is he going to be able to go out there and get that? And you got to give credit to Kyler Murray because he's been pretty darn good with the football. He's only got 2 interceptions. He's only got 2 interceptions this year. So can that ball hawking secondary force some turnovers against Kyler Murray? Are they going to be able to do that? And a lot is going to depend on if they can have that disciplined pressure, collapsing the pocket there a little bit, getting him off his mark, not allowing him to pick up first downs using his legs and such. I was looking at some of the defensive numbers here. Jordan, we gotta add Jordan Love and Malik Willis, but Jordan Love and Malik Willis combined have been sacked 8 times. Kyler Murray, even though with his legs and such, he has been sacked 11 times this year. So it's not impossible. It's not impossible to get after him and get him down. It's not. It's just that disciplined pressure where you have to collapse the pocket overall. And, you look at Arizona in terms of them getting after the quarterback. As a team, they've got 11 sacks. And if you want to compare that to Green Bay's actually got more. Team-wise, Green Bay's got 16 sacks. 16 sacks. One of their sack leaders actually is former Packer Chris Barnes at linebacker, who's got 2. So I think this is Green Bay should be able to keep Jordan Love pretty clean. His jersey should be pretty clean. They should be able to keep him upright. But if they can get that running game going with Josh Jacobs, they can establish that run with Josh Jacobs, where he's averaging 4 or 5 yards per carry, 5.5 yards per carry, where it's like you're picking up a few, and he's really taking advantage of that yards after contact stat that we just said a little bit earlier. You open up that play action game. It's bread and butter to Jaden Reed, bread and butter to some maybe if tough. Hopefully Tucker Kraft's able to play. It's bread and butter to Tucker Kraft, Dontavian Wicks. Hopefully the dropsies kind of behind him, and we'll see about Christian Watson if he's out there too. The offense is when Christian Watson is out there, he's one of those players that he affects the overall offense, even if he's not putting up big numbers. I mean, just his presence out there. We know about the speed, we know about the size, and his ability to take off the top off the defense. The guy is a pretty darn good run blocker too. So the offense, the Packers offense is quite a bit different when he's out there or when he's not out there. I don't know if he's going to be out there this weekend, but if he is, that gives you more opportunities. That opens up things a whole lot more too. We know Romeo's going to be out there, but if they can get that running game going and that play action working, he should be able to get some opportunities as well, especially over the middle of the field. What are your key matchups? What are your key victories, keys to victory? And what are some players to watch? I think for me, players to watch for this game, I mentioned a couple of them. I think Javon Bullard is going to be a guy. Evan Williams. I'm going to go those two on the defensive side. You could say the defensive line like Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary, and you'd be right. I'll go a little bit of a different direction here because I think we're going to see Javon Bullard play a little bit more in the box and towards the line of scrimmage, and then Evan Williams playing more of that deep safety to help out Xavier McKinney and such, or playing him a little bit more of the middle of the field. And then offensively, the player to watch, I think, has got to be Josh Jacobs. And that running attack. Is Green Bay going to feed the rock to number 8? And can he take advantage of that yards after contact stat? All right, your thoughts, let me know. Hit me up with a text, okay? 715-830-1912. Quick break. We'll be back to finish up the first hour already this morning. If you've noticed that little sticker in the top left corner of your driver's window saying it's time for an oil change, well, get in, make your appointment with ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire to get that oil change. Or maybe it's time to get some new tires. It's kind of that time of the year, especially when you got your eye towards winter. ASAP Used Auto Parts, that's your go-to place for that as well. Uh, Not only just saving some money on some high quality used auto parts, ASAP Used Auto Parts is your go-to place for those oil changes and those tires. So make your appointment. Stop by 1330 Menominee Street in Eau Claire. That's just off Claremont, across street from the Do Dodge over there. So stop on by and get your tires checked out while getting your oil change. Or maybe you're working on a project vehicle, project car, and such, and you need some parts. ASAP Used Auto Parts can help you find just what you are looking for. So, we got a few texts here. Plain T earlier this morning. Morning, DK. Plain T taking a roll call from the Stanley prison. I'm assuming you're working over there, Plain T. My key to a Packer victory is to keep Kyler Murray in prison and not let him bust out for any long third down runs. Spit it out, Dan. Jordan Love definitely needs to clean up the turnovers. The panic throws in the end zone versus the Vikings, a dumb throw in the pick six last week are just a few examples. C-Bomb, excited to see Halfley's D. If they could stop a top tier tight ends slashed Joe Barry's scheme. McBride's a stud. Looking forward to see how we can contain him. Keep those coming. And yeah, we're doing some roll calls. I want to see where everybody's listening from here this morning. So hit me up with the text, okay? 715-830-19. Along with your keys of victory, your predictions too. All right, give me your predictions for this game and give me some players to watch, a player to watch, a couple players to watch. You can go offensively, you can go defensively on this thing. All right, no right or wrong answers for this. So hit me up. Can't do a text? You can comment on the video stream or hit me up on the socials of Facebook and the X/Twitter. All right, coming up in just a few minutes, we'll catch up with Dr. Croach at Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine for our Inside the Training Room. After that, Brandon will be joining us. We'll do some local sports roundup with him as we are into the postseason play for some fall sports, getting closer for others as we start to wrap up those regular seasons. So we'll do some roundup with Brandon. We'll get back to some more football talk. We've got playoff baseball yet. The Yankees have advanced to the championship series. They don't know who they're going to play yet because the Guardians extended their series against the Tigers. We've got a game 5 for them tomorrow. Dodgers and Padres, game 5 tonight, where the winner of that will take on the Mets. We'll take on the Mets in the NLCS. So we'll throw a little baseball talk in there. We got some hoops talk as well. Bucks preseason action last night, taking on the Lakers in Milwaukee. Cream of the crop, all that good stuff yet, too. One in already. I want to hear from you, all right? Keep those comments and texts coming here. C-Bomb, roll call, just passing Baldwin Woodville on the way to New Richmond. There we go. Where else are you all at? Hit me up.
Food and Farm News on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. I'm Bob Bosold.
Well, the fall sports season is in full swing right now. Are you a little banged up or have you suffered an injury that you need to get checked out? Whether you're a high school or college athlete or a weekend warrior still playing the game you love, injuries happen. But just know the team at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine are there to help you get back into the game. You're treated with top-of-the-line care, and they are with you and explaining every step of the process with you so that you know and understand what type of care you're receiving. Hey, start feeling better. Visit cvosm.com to get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Casper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Casper Show.
Second hour kicking off right now on this football Friday. Thank gosh, it's a football Friday. We'll get back to some more football talk coming up here in just a little bit. Don't forget to give us your predictions and your keys to victory, your key matchups, your key players, all that good stuff. Hit us up with a text at 715-830-1912. We're going to do a local sports roundup with Mr. Brandon Berg coming up here shortly as well. But we kick off this hour like we normally do, talking with our doc.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. On the Dan Casper Show.
He is Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us for our Inside the Training Room. First up, Doc, impressive, good win last week for Regis against Stanley Boyd. That was a heck of a game last week.
Oh, it was a doozy. I mean, Stanley came out strong. We took their first two shots when they scored back-to-back touchdowns, and then the team rallied, and it was a well-played game. Stanley is a great team. I think they're going to do some things in the postseason, but we were able to come out with the W. So I know it was really a big confidence booster for the guys, and it was definitely hard fought. So it was great to come away with a win.
Is it Neilsville Granton for you guys tonight?
Well, yeah, they actually just yesterday informed us they're gonna forfeit, so they weren't able to bring a healthy roster together. So they had a couple injuries last week, and so it turns out we kind of got a bonus bye week. So a little disappointing for the guys, but it is what it is. Obviously, if they can't bring a healthy team forward, you can't put them in a bad spot. So we have a bye week this week instead, and then we finish off the season playing a team out of Illinois, United Township, which is out of Molina in the Quad Cities. So it's a big school. So that's certainly going to be a test. So maybe we'll take a little extra time to prep for them.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting game to kind of watch too next week, an uncommon opponents over there.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. So we kind of had it. Osseo was not able to field the team this year. And so we had a spot we had to fill. And so it kind of was last minute. So they're a big school. I don't know. I can't know if they're the biggest or second biggest class in Illinois, but they're a big school. So I think their enrollment's around 1,800. So
wow.
Heck of a lot bigger than Regis. So we're going to face up against a bigger opponent, but it might be a nice transition into the playoffs. Obviously, we want to make sure we stay healthy for that game, but beyond that, it should be hopefully a good tune-up for postseason play.
Absolutely. Good stuff here. Moving to, I should say, some injuries now. I want to ask you about Christian Watson. So he's been practicing. We've talked about him a couple times. You know, there was a report, high ankle sprain, but then he wasn't put on injured reserve, and he's been practicing this week. And now his dad apparently has been going, and his dad goes on Twitter a lot to argue with people. But he was arguing with, I guess, some Twitter doctors over there, and he said that his son Christian actually has a medial ankle sprain. Can you explain what that is, a medial ankle sprain?
Yeah, so medial ankle is the deltoid ligament. So when we talk about the ligament, there's three structures on the ankle. that we look at. So we have the lateral ankle, which is the most common. So that's a group of actually 3 separate ones. The most commonly torn one is called the ATFL, the anterior talofibular ligament. So that's a classic. You roll your ankle, lateral sprain, quote, low ankle sprain, by far the most common. Second most common would be high ankle. And those are the ligaments that hold your tibia and your fibula together. That's generally a rotational injury. So it's not that you have a classic roll generally. Well, I think we all saw the video of what happened to Watson. That did look like a classic mechanism for a high ankle. So usually the foot's planted or stuck under something, and you get a rotation through the ankle and up into the knee. And that can basically rotate or pull apart the 2 bones. So that can be a pretty devastating injury. The least common, in generally, it's not in isolation. So I'm guessing that the people arguing are probably both correct. Often the deltoid, which is the medial ligament on the ankle, or the one coming off the knob on the inner part of your ankle, that deltoid ligament, if that's injured, that's usually a rotational injury as well. Really uncommon to be done in isolation. So usually that happens in conjunction with a high ankle. And in fact, if you have a really significant injury to the high ankle and the medial ligament, usually that's an indication for surgery, which suggests that Watson's was a partial injury to those, because if you would have disrupted the deltoid and the high ankle, he'd have gotten surgery almost for sure. And that's what we call a Mason-Neuve injury. So yeah, it's a little bit complex, but when we think the ankle, again, there's 3 main areas. And that medial ankle is the least commonly injured, at least in isolation.
Gotcha. Interesting. There's been some groin injuries going on around here too. I know Tucker Kraft, the tight end, was just added to the injury report with a groin injury yesterday. Jair's missed the last couple weeks because of a groin injury. Saw Rashad Bateman, the Ravens receiver, has been added to the injury report because of a groin. When it comes to groin injuries, are those like kind of what's the word I'm trying to come up here with? But like injuries that I know they're soft tissue injuries, but kind of I'm blanking on the word right now. That's kind of embarrassing right now. But fatigue injuries. That's what I was trying to think of, like a fatigue type of injury.
Well, I mean, all musculoskeletal injuries like that, I mean, have increased risk in the setting of fatigue. So when people get to the point where their body's kind of at that limit, they're more prone to having those type of injuries. I'm not saying it's the only time they happen. They clearly don't, but we do see that. So, I mean, as you get through a season, there are times where you get kind of picked off because people are getting a little bit out of shape or tired, I should say. And so there is some correlation there, but I mean, I think it's one of those things. I mean, groin injuries just happen. You see it a lot in athletes that have, lateral movements, cutting, planting. It's not a classic like offensive lineman injury. It's more so guys that are shifty and moving. And so you get that kind of side-to-side cut, and it'll affect the groin. I mean, we use that term generically. Generally, a groin is referring to an adductor, but there is that kind of sports hernia portion of it as well, which is a little more nebulous. But in either event, generally they do respond well to conservative treatments, but they can take a while, and they can be injuries that nag for a while. So you get a guy who gets a groin injury in week 6, week 8, whatever, and all of a sudden come postseason, they're still kind of limping along with it. It can really be bothersome where they need a big block of time to rest it. And unfortunately, you just can't do that in the middle of the football season. So there is that kind of element where you're kind of nursing those wounds along through the season. And we certainly can see that in this setting.
That's you mentioned the one injury there that made me nervous every time I hear groin injury is the sports hernia injury, because I mean that's surgery, but it seems like too, if you have that sports hernia surgery, it's not a season ender. It's only like a few weeks, right?
Yeah, and it depends on what's done. So I mean, there's plenty of debate on the right way to do it. In fact, here's the crazy part. I mean, experts don't even fully agree on what it is. I mean, some people feel it's like a nerve issue. Some people feel it's like a microherniation. Some people feel it's a disruption of some of the tendons as they insert onto the pubic bone in the front. And so treatment, it can be, sometimes it's to repair a tendon. Sometimes it's to do a neurectomy where they cut that nerve. I mean, so there's a lot of different things that people do for it, and they all seem to work about the same. So it's kind of, I think probably, in my opinion, it's probably multifactorial. So it may be a little bit of all the above. And that's why it's not one clear answer, because no one's completely right. But either way, that can be something that can really bother people. I mean, I think it first really gained popularity, as far at least in the attention of the media, is when Donovan McNabb had it. I think he might have missed the seat in the day with that, but that was kind of the first time I remember about it. And I was like, what the heck is that? And then, you get it. And then now, as I do this professionally, you kind of learn it's like, well, it's kind of a poorly understood topic. And so it's something that still people are looking at. And I don't think we have all the answers yet, but it's certainly treated much more efficiently now, but it's still something that can be bothersome and unfortunately does require surgery sometimes.
Your running back, Aaron Jones, left the game early on football player, apparently suffering a hip injury, and it's kind of like day to day, week to week. What are some of the possibilities surrounding that?
Yeah, I mean that it is a big question mark. I mean, I honestly, it's for something like that's that mild. I mean, if you had a real severe hip injury, like a subluxation dislocation or a fracture on, I mean, those are dramatic injuries, like the old Bo Jackson injury.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are season, potentially career-ending. So we know it wasn't anything like that. So then you're looking at more likely one of the tendons around the hip. So you have, your hip flexors, you have your abductors. Those are all muscles that are around that hip that can be injured. So my suspicion it's going to be more along those lines. So a tendon or musculotendinous injury. You could have something like an irritation with the labrum if he has a history of a labral problem. But often labral tears do go on to having surgery as well. So, I would guess it's going to be something along the lines of a tendon or musculotendinous injury. And it was relatively mild because it sounds like they're already kind of predicting him to be back after the bye week. So hopefully we can get him healthy and kind of move forward. And sounds like, the Vikings are going to have a couple new pieces back in the armamentarium after the bye week. So hopefully he'll be one of them.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I know Nico Collins, the leading receiver in the league, he's out with a hamstring injury too, which I'm going to the game next week against Houston. So, on one hand, I'm glad he won't be tearing us apart over there. Yeah, no doubt about it. But, I know we've talked about hamstring injuries a lot. My question is there degrees of hamstring injuries or pulls or strains or anything like that, like a grade 3, grade 2 and that?
Yep. You can get an MRI and measure them. I mean, we can have like a soft kind of subjective call, like, when you assess them, like the severity. But if you MRI them, you can grade them on severity. But in the run of the mill, I mean, I get athletes that come in with a pulled hammy. I don't get an MRI. I mean, it doesn't really provide us a lot. Instead, we just do kind of like a week by week thing. The more severe ones are going to be, 4 to 6 weeks, if not longer. Mild ones can be a week or two. Pro athletes, of course, they sneeze and they get an MRI. So those guys have MRIs of everything. And so they'll know very clearly the severity, and they'll have a much better idea of how long that athlete will be out. But these, I mean, obviously you guys dealt with it with Watson last year, and I mean, every football team, every season across the world, there's always at least 1 or 2 guys in the team with a hammy. I mean, it's just such a common injury. And like we talked about, just like the groin, the problem is when they heal, that muscle heals with scar tissue, so it never gets exactly the same. And especially in the short term, you can get back, but it's always like in the back of your mind. I don't know if you ever pulled a hammy, but I had one bad one in college. And I mean, for a good year or 2 years, I mean, every time I went into a full sprint, I could just feel it a little bit. Like it didn't repull, but you're like, I feel that, like it's there. And to this day, if I do certain lifts, I can still feel that hamstring spot. So they never go back to truly 100%, but they can get close. But yeah, it's never a good diagnosis when you see that. Obviously, there's worse ones that could be seasoning, but those are ones that, I mean, I can promise you Nico will know that from now till the end of the season that he has that bad hammy.
Finally, before I let you go, we know the type of surgery that Rashee Rice had, the Chiefs wide receiver. Apparently, he underwent successful LCL surgery in his right knee. Also, I had read too that he had a repair done to his hamstring tendon. Are those kind of common correlations between those two type of injuries, do you think?
Yeah, we do see those. So he had probably what's called a posterolateral corner injury and an injury to what's called the arcuate complex. So basically on the lateral or outer part of the knee, let me take one step back. So like when we talk about ligaments, like the MCL, ACL, PCL, they're often kind of referred relatively in isolation. The outside of the knee or the LCL really has kind of a group of structures that support it. So we call that collectively the posterolateral corner. And part of that is the LCL, which is pretty well known, the popliteus tendon, what's called the popliteofibular ligament, and then also your hamstring on that outer part, which is called the biceps femoris. So in a real significant, and we all saw the video of his knee getting hit by his own quarterback.
Yeah.
Bummer. His knee went in a way that's not normal. So what happened is I can guarantee you he avulsed that arcuate complex, which includes that biceps femoris. So the biceps femoris gets pulled off. So it's not often, but in fact, the last posterolateral corner I did on one of my patients, I had to fix the hamstring with it as well. So, I mean, they ripped that whole side off. So it's a pretty marked injury. And so that does explain a heck of a lot more as to what was going on. So isolated post-slaughter corner injuries are fairly uncommon. Almost universally, they go along with ACLs and PCLs. And so if you remember in the news, they kept talking about, does he have an ACL? Does he have a PCL? And they didn't really mention the post-slaughter corner. The assumption is from the get-go, the doctors were like, because that one's easy to tell. You take the leg and you put what's called a varus force, that'll blow wide open because the LCL and that whole corner is gone. So they knew that right away. The question was, how are the ACL and PCL? And that's where he got those opinions. Clearly, they felt that those were okay, which is great news for him. And they probably did either a repair or reconstruction. That side, you can sometimes do repairs, which can work very well. Sometimes we do reconstructions, and it depends on the injury pattern. But either way, that actually has a pretty good success rate. So hopefully he bounces back. It'll be a long recovery like all reconstructions, but he should do well.
Interesting. Wow. A lot of good stuff there. We appreciate the time as always, Austin. Enjoy the bye week. At least we don't have to see the Vikings win another game for me and over there. So I'm just
well, you know, it is what it is. One of my buddies who's a longtime listener has asked me to ask you, what are your thoughts on Bob Costas and his coverage on the Yankees? He's a little too biased with his play calling. Is your journalistic opinion on that?
Ooh, journalistic opinion might be a little too high of a praise. But I will say, yeah, you know, I'll say this. Even Hudson told him the other night to be quiet when we were watching that game. So that's my 7-year-old saying that guy's annoying right now. So
I mean, it's like you like it when people have that, a little bit of a take on a team, but sometimes it's hard to listen to when people are that kind of biased and
exactly
their angle, I guess. But
I would agree with your buddy too, and I think my 7-year-old Hudson agrees with him too. So good stuff, buddy. Hey, I appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the weekend. We'll catch up with you again soon. Okay.
All right, have a great one.
You too. There you go. Dr. Crow joining us here this morning inside the training room. We're going to take a quick break, and we've got Brandon Berg coming in here this morning. We'll do some local sports roundup with him after these quick words. Youth teams, youth leagues, sports teams out there, if you're looking to get some new jerseys, get some new basketball uniforms, baseball uniforms, if it's time to update those, look no further than Resonance Branding Company, our good friends over there, the official swag provider for the program. They can help set you up with some new unis, also help set you up with an online store. So if you want to sell some of your merchandise to your fans or to help raise some funds, they can do that too. Just give them a look at ResonanceBrandingCompany.com. They're located right here in Altoona. We got Brandon Berg joining us here this morning. Let's start off with local sports roundup, Brandon, and the game we were talking about a little bit with Dr. Crow, but Regis, first of all, Stanley jumping out to a big lead, and then Regis coming back because you were at that game at Carson Park, right?
Yes. It was a big crowd for Regis and Stanley Boyd Saturday at Carson Park, and Stanley jumped out to lead. Regis made the comeback, and but no, it was. I mean, it was a game that the game I expected as far as just the level of competition. It was a great game. Yeah. I mean, these are two high-profile teams. I mean, this was a game that people. I mean, you didn't just have to be a Stanley Boyd or a Regis fan to go out and check that game out. So, but yeah, it was a great game, and in the end, the Ramblers pulled it out. We heard from Dr. Crow, obviously, with their game tonight being canceled. I mean, that's going to go down as a forfeit, I believe. It should anyway for the Ramblers. So that will give them the outright Clover Belt title. With them playing next week, they have the. I mean, they still should count as a conference win for them because of Osseo Fairchild. Not having a varsity team this year and then playing the game that they are. So that should lock it up for the Ramblers. And meanwhile, otherwise in the Clover Belt, you still got Stanley Boyd facing Elk Mound tonight. That's an important game for both teams, really. But, for Stanley Boyd, looking to kind of get back on the winning track, try to continue to strengthen that postseason resume. They're already in, but, certainly the more wins you get, you can kind of seal maybe a higher seed in Division 5 or, a playoff game or two at home. Elk Mound looking to get in. And, given the computer scoring of the seedings that we'll find out next weekend, I mean, a win over a team of that caliber would definitely give them a nice boost up in their stock.
Right. So it sounds like Stanley's still going to make the postseason, right?
Yeah. Stanley Boyd has clinched the postseason berth, so they are in. And I mean, I guess they are like, it's weird because they're technically the WI doesn't refer to it as clinched, but if you have a winning record in conference, you're going to be in the playoffs. So I say it. So it may not be the correct vernacular the WI always wants, but that's what I'm going to say because that's what it is.
Right.
They're in.
Right.
So they're in. You got other teams like Mondovi that are, one win away. And tonight, Mondovi faces Durand. So that's another one. A Mondovi team that's not that far away from, being, one loss or maybe none. I mean, they played Regis tough. That was a one-score game with Stanley Boyd earlier in the year. So that's still a Mondovi team that, I think come the Division 6 playoffs is still going to be a threat. I mean, you could easily see another Regis Mondovi matchup.
That'd be a heck of a one, man. I want to go back to Chi High last week because they put up a bunch of points.
They did quickly too.
Evers. Yeah, and I know you have a piece about that from the last couple games in the first half.
Right.
Is this a team? I was asking Justice about this, but I mean, you obviously cover it. But it seems like this Chippewa Falls team, they can win in different ways. Whether it's a high-scoring thing or maybe just kind of grind it out low-scoring. Is that accurate to say about this Chippewa Falls team?
I think so. This is a team that has as explosive of an offense as they've had in recent years. And they've had some good offenses, but you look at just last week, they scored 4 touchdowns in the first 7 minutes of the game. And they did it in all 3 phases. They ran, they scored on the ground, they scored on defense, they had a scoop and score from Colin Clary, and then Jackson LeMay returned a kickoff for a touchdown. It's a team that, as I've talked with other coaches, kind of about them and just kind of heard what they had to say, they know how explosive they are. And you look at some of the athletes on the team and you see, you go back to the spring track season, Jackson LeMay, Jackson Boland, Sam Hebert, Jalen Smith, guys that were sprinters, relay runners, just explosive athletes that you get the ball in their hands and they get a crease, they can take it a long way. And, that's a Chippewa Falls team that, they're 5-2 right now. With one more win, they would clinch a playoff berth. But, tonight they're in Hudson. I know Chippewa Falls is a little banged up right now, as a lot of teams are this time of year. I mean, you're not going to find any team that's feeling 100% great. But and then next week it's it's Chippewa Falls Menominee to close the regular season. So and Hudson, Menominee, and Chip are all kind of in the same boat where they're all 3-2 in conference. They need one more conference win. And they're going to be kind of playing each other here these next few weeks. So, that's going to be important. But that win last week over Everest was gigantic to get and had ramifications for the Wisconsin Valley, because with that being a crossover game, that actually counts in the conference standings for both teams. So for DC Everest, that was their first loss. So now they're even with Stevens Point. I think those two teams played tonight. Chippewa Falls beat Stevens Point earlier this year. So, but Chippewa's going to be an interesting team, I think. Assuming that they make the playoffs, because they're kind of on that line of Division I, Division II. They have been the last several years. I mean, there's been some years they've been D2, some years they've been D1, but now with this is being the first fall of the success factor coming into play, you're going to have some D2 teams moving up to D1. And so I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to play out. We won't know, obviously, until next Saturday morning when the playoffs pairings are announced, 8 days from now, not tomorrow. Next, I mean next week, but but yeah, in the Big Rivers. Otherwise, I mean, New Richmond's up top. They picked up the big win over Rice Lake a few weeks ago. I mean, otherwise, looking around, River Falls plays Menominee tonight. That'll be an interesting one. River Falls is that's a team with a lot of talent, a team that really gave Rice Lake a lot to handle last week in a Rice Lake win. So that's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on as far as this conference or the Big Rivers goes. And the Dunn St. Croix, a big one tonight in Boyceville is Boyceville and Spring Valley. Both those teams are unbeaten. Both those teams are state ranked. That's also going to be a really important matchup, not just for the conference title race, but when you're looking at the postseason, because I think both those teams will probably be in Division 7. They might be paired up together again. So, that could be not only, who wins the conference, but that also could be who ends up maybe as a 1 seed. Pep and Alma is certainly going to have something to say about that. They're having another great year in the Dairyland. So, I don't know. Like, that's going to be a fun one to watch there. Kind of being able to watch it from afar.
What's the is 8-man football done next week for the regular season too?
They started a week later, but they're synced up together. It's just they play one fewer game.
Gotcha. Okay.
So 8-man. There's a few big games this week. The game I'll be at tonight is McDonald and Thorpe at DeRay Field, and that is kind of an elimination game. I guess I shouldn't say elimination game, but Thorpe, in talking with Thorpe coach Katie Stokes this week, he acknowledged this is our playoffs start this week. Because if you want to have a shot to make the 8-man playoffs, you need 6 wins. You need to be at the very least 6-2, and even then, we'll see. But Thorpe is 4-2. They have a couple losses. They lost to Owen Withy and they lost to Gilman. But it's a Thorpe team that a lot different from the team that was came with an eyelash winning a state title last year. But he's been really pleased with the way that they've been able to play, the way they've been able to grow this year with a younger team. They're coming off a win over Cornell. And McDonald, it's a game they kind of realize it too. Like, hey, they know they need to come out strong. They need to come out firing, ready to go. So I'm interested to see how that works out. In the North Central East Conference as well, you've got top-ranked Owen Withy hosting Clayton, who is the league leader in the North Central West Conference, and that's a crossover game too, meaning it counts for the conference standings. So tonight, you teams like McDonald and Gilman are pretty big Clayton fans, because if Clayton were to beat Owen Withy, obviously that would move McDonald and Gilman, if they were to win, into possibly a tie for the conference lead with a week to go. Subsequently, you have teams like Siren and New Auburn, who both play tonight up in Siren, who are big Owen Withy fans, because for the same reason, if Owen Withy beats Clayton, and one of those teams could be walking out tonight tied for the conference lead, depending on who wins that game.
Wow. With
1 week to go. And that's going to be big, not just for, you want to win a conference title, but also for when it comes down to playoffs.
C-Bomb has a quick question for you. What does Brandon think about the success factor? What happens when a team has success and graduates all of its seniors that gave them the success and then they get moved up?
That's a great question. I mean, that's something I've talked about with a lot of people. I don't mind it. I would like to see it. I would like to see kind of the sample size they use for it, maybe spread over more years, for kind of the reason he mentioned, where if you have just a kind of a great group of kids that come through for a couple of years, and it's kind of a pop-up group, so to speak, then it might be a little tough if a couple years after that you're still kind of say dealing with, but you have that kind of going with it. So I'm not opposed to it, but I think I'd like to see it kind of graded, so to speak, over more than just like a couple years.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna, and this is the first year it's enacted, so this is the first year we're gonna see it in action. And there are some teams around here where it's enacted. Rice Lake in football, they're gonna be Division II for the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of some other ones. McDonald volleyball, Division III. We'll see some, and there's others. We'll see some once we get into the fall and the winter and stuff like that too.
Especially basketball, right?
Yeah, basketball is one. But Prescott for girls golf, they had won 4 straight Division II titles. This year they were Division I. That's an example of one where I'm in favor of that. They've kind of done all they need to do at Division II, and they're going to state in Division I. So they're still, they've showed their mettle. I mean, I believe they won that section for girls golf state next week. So yeah, to kind of try to make a long answer short, as I try to do, but it doesn't usually work. I don't mind it, but I would like to see it graded over a longer period of time. Plus,
a bigger sample size.
Bigger sample size. But not all the sports are graded equally. Example.
Okay. Yeah.
Like McDonald cross country, they're in Division II this year for boys, but like it is weighted. Cross country weights it higher, like points wise, if you win a sectional championship versus how you do at state.
Okay.
So that's something that, now McDonald's boys are D2 this year, and, they have a decent shot of, maybe be one of those teams to come out of D2. We'll see how that goes in a couple of weeks, but, that's not as much the case in other sports. So it's going to be a very interesting few years to just see. And then, something I've talked with some coaches that they've kind of brought up, which is interesting, which was an interesting observation to me, is if you're the WIA, how do you grade if it's successful or not? Like how do you,
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because is it successful if a team like say Prescott, they're Division II and they won, several state titles in a row, and they go up to D1 and they're successful. And in Division I, is that viewed as successful? Is it viewed as successful if they don't? Because you're getting different teams. Like how do you look at this and say, okay, that's what we want? Like,
yeah.
And that's something that they haven't really been, the WIA so far anyway, hasn't really been able to answer. And I think that's a fair question to ask if you're a coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I never thought of it that way too. So yeah, that's a good question.
So I mean, that's just something we're going to have to learn. I mean, we're all kind of learning as we go here.
Right.
So we're going to start to see it a little bit here. And, coming up, we've got, early next week, we've got girls golf state down at University Ridge. Around here, you've got, in Division I, Chippewa Falls' Sarah Shafee won the sectional championship in Toma Monday. She's actually the first Chippewa Falls golfer to reach state since the 1970s.
Wow.
And granted, that's a little misleading on my behalf, because from the mid 1970s to early 2010s, they didn't have a team.
Okay.
But they've had teams recently. They've been close. They've had golfers that are 1 shot away, 2 shot away. Shafee was just a couple shots away last year, but she went out and won the sectional title. And I've got a story that'll be in this weekend's paper. It's actually up on the website right now, chipper.com, if you want to go read about it. Kind of about her path in golf, because she's a world champion horseshoe thrower. She won world championships as a kid. She actually has already won women's adult world championships. As a high school. Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, she's she was, as a young age, she was a prodigy of it. Her dad's very involved in the Eau Claire Horseshoe Club, like so stuff like that. And so, but she didn't start with golf really seriously until she was a freshman. And she just picked it up. She's just she's just a really good athlete. Like, she plays basketball. She's an all-conference basketball player.
I'm so jealous of people like that. Just this couple of days ago for our Blue Goals podcast, we talked to their golf coach, Brian, our coach Skinner. He started golf his junior year in high school, and now he's coaching
some
at
people
college.
can just pick it up. Yeah.
It's good for them. I'm just jealous.
Anyways. Yes, but otherwise in D1, you've got Carolyn Skinner from Altoona Regis. She's going on to state in Division I. She was an individual qualifier. Division II, Bella Kongshog from Elk Colfax. She won Division II state last year. She's going to be back to try to defend that title this year. So, there's a lot of there's individuals that are going to be keeping an eye on. That's one where when the time comes, I'm sure Justice will be able to talk with you a little bit more about that. But because he'll be down there for that. I mean, that's always
that's one of
that's always one of his big things he does. He puts in the steps walking around the golf courses. So, but you got girls tennis state coming up next week. Eau Claire Memorial is always a good contingent going down there. I know Menominee had I believe a number one singles competitor going as well. I think the McDonald Regis team has a couple going on. So it's it's getting down to it there too, with heading down to the state tennis tournament, which is right in Madison as well. So yeah, we're kind of getting down to it.
And soccer too. I know Memorial picked up a big win.
That's a
against
big
Hudson
win. Yeah, Tuesday
for
night
boys.
over Hudson. Yeah, I mean that's a big win. I mean those. You look back however many years you want. Every time Hudson and Memorial play, it's usually for something significant. And for them to come out and win, I think it was 5-2.
5-2, yeah.
Like I was talking about this with one of the other TV guy people. It's like, when do you think the last time is like someone's put up 5 on Hudson? That doesn't happen very much. So that's a huge win for them. I think that gives them kind of the inside track in the conference title race. So that's also going to be big come postseason seeding, which that postseason comes up in a couple weeks. You got to feel like that's probably going to have them in a decent shot to maybe land a top seed, which is always important because if you can stay home, that's the longer you can stay home, the better. So no, that is a gigantic win for the Old Abes.
Absolutely. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on the prep side of things here. Still a little early to be talking about practice for winter sports.
Yeah. That won't get started till I believe maybe that second Monday in
November.
So we got some time there yet, but you got some programs that are getting new coaches, stuff like that because of other but yeah, it's I know that McDonald or Chippewa Falls McDonald girls hockey has a new coach. It's going to be a familiar face for anyone in the area. Michaela Hogan, who was a great player for the team in the mid to late 2000s. She's done some assistant coach work and stuff like that too. So it's a familiar face. People know, and she's someone that brings a lot of knowledge of not just hockey, but also of just kind of the program itself. So, but that'll get going early next month. So,
all right.
Kind of one of those years where there just seems like there's a lot of new coaches in the area.
Yeah, it does.
It's just sometimes you get those. I mean,
and some just kind of go into different schools, kind of lateral stuff, but different schools. So
just one, it just seems like sometimes you get those years, and this is just one of those years.
Exactly. Blue Golds, we know it's homecoming week for the Blue Golds, so their football game tomorrow, 1 p.m. Carson Park, taking on our good buddy Justice Cleveland's alma mater. So it's my alma mater versus his alma mater. We're all represented. You're Oshkosh, he's Point, I'm Eau Claire, so WIAC represented right there. Then Stout taking on Whitewater for week 5 football at 2:00 on Saturday. So I was looking at the rankings for D3 football. Yeah, there's quite a few representations on there.
There always is.
And because actually you could go to like the mothership ESPN and they have the rankings up there for Division 3. Let me just pull it up for you just to give you a representation of how it's represented right now. You've got River Falls at number 5, Whitewater's at 8, Platteville's at 11, La Crosse is at 18, and then your alma mater, Oshkosh, is at 23. That's how many teams
That's like more than half the conference.
Yeah. Those are your top 25 right there.
It's interesting because like I feel like you go back not too far, and I mean we always knew like Whitewater was good, but even like when I was in college, Oshkosh wasn't good. Like they were okay, but like it feels like the conference has always been good, but it feels like within the last 5-10 years, like the depth is really, and it's been different teams at different times. It's not like it's the same 2 or 3 teams,
right?
You've seen the reemergence of La Crosse, who's had a lot of good years over the years. River Falls making that big, kind of that comeback. Like it can be anybody
post the Owen Schmidt era.
Friday Gilman.
Yep.
But just like it's a tough climb to make if you're one of those teams looking to move up. But there's so many other programs showing you can do it.
Yeah, you absolutely.
There's room for upward mobility. It's not easy, but you can do it.
I believe it was just a few years ago at Oshkosh. Their quarterback last name was Casper with a K.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Well, no relation that I know of. I still need that Kevin Casper jersey from the NFL. Remember Kevin Casper? He's got a few teams out there.
Receiver. Yep.
I gotta find if there's one on eBay that's not like a boatload because it's a vintage item now.
Too bad they didn't have like a training camp jaunt with the Packers, huh?
I know. Because
then people are like, oh, did you get a custom jersey? No, it's Kevin Casper.
Yeah. God, that would have been cool. All right, that's your local sports roundup with our good buddy, Mr. Brandon Berg. You can check out his work, chippewa.com, or pick up a copy of the Chippewa Herald. Let's take a quick break, and you know what? Let's finish up the second hour talking some college football. Wisconsin's in action. Still weird to say, but a big Big Ten matchup with Ohio State and Oregon. We'll talk about that coming up next. If you're looking for that new home, or maybe your first home, or maybe you need to get a little bit of a bigger home because your family's expanding, or because it's hunting season, maybe you want to get your own parcel of land. Well, just head to our good friends Woods and Water Realty, woodsandwater.com. You can check out all the listings over there, and the entire team will help you find your dream home or that new dream property where you can maybe start some hunting traditions over there. Speaking of hunting, big thanks again to everybody who's been sending some photos on over. We will get them up on the Tilden Gun photo board. And with the deer season, well, bow season going on, but for deer gun season next month, reminder, if you need to upgrade that deer rifle of yours, or maybe get one, or maybe get some supplies like ammo or scope, good friends at Tilden Gun can help you out. Check out their website, tildengun.com. And then Sean and Hunter over there, fantastic people to work with. Best deals, best selection in the Valley. Brandon's got his Badger shirt on here. So, but who was that Badger team last week? I know it was Purdue, but for crying out loud, dropping 50-some points and only allowed
Kind of
6.
wasn't it?
Yeah, where was that the first 2 weeks against FCS teams and that?
Right. I don't know. Like, it was, and the thing was, it was more of a big second half than just full game domination. But I think the things I liked to see, number one, pushing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Like Braden Locke is somebody that is a great fit for the Air Raid offense. Like, he knows the ins and the outs of it. You just wonder, like, the physical skills. Does he have the arm talent to do it? And something I brought up with Braden Locke in the past is, remember, Braden Locke came from Mississippi State, where he was recruited by Mike Leach. And my feeling has always been, if Mike Leach thinks you can throw in the air raid, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But he struggled. I mean, make no mistake about it. I mean, I don't really take too much stock in the Alabama game because that's just a tough spot to jump into.
Yeah.
He had some moments in the USC game, but it kind of got worse almost as the game went on. But getting Trech Kekahuna involved in the passing attack was big. I mean, we saw that in the bowl game last year with LSU, just how kind of explosive he can be. Like, I'm curious to see this offense now that some of these younger players are kind of starting to get integrated a little bit. You mentioned, Kekahuna, some of the younger running backs getting in there with, Ches Malusi out of action now. You've got Tawi Walker, but, Katie Akamelli and some of those other guys jumping in there too. Like, I want to see how this looks. Now, how do you follow up success? Because, yeah, you had a good week last week. That was a feel-good game. I mean, it's been a bit since the Badgers won a game like that.
Yeah.
Now you go on the road, play 11 o'clock against a good Rutgers team. I mean, this Rutgers team is good
Defensively, too.
They're a tough physical team. I mean, this is a team that, in years past could kind of remind you of a Wisconsin team. With Greg Schiano as the coach, we know he's going to want to, run the ball.
Yep.
I want to see how this team kind of follows that up, because if they go on the road to Piscataway tomorrow and they win, I think then you can kind of think, okay, like, it's not, a big time win over Alabama or anyone like that yet, but it's like if you can kind of start to take care of business a little bit better against teams of that nature, of that caliber, knowing that you've got some heavy hitters a little bit later on in the schedule, like, you can kind of maybe feel like you can build a little bit momentum for some of those matchups.
At least get into that Penn State game where you're 5-2 heading into it.
Because if they're 3-2 now, like they
or 4-2 heading into the Penn State game.
Well, no, because don't they play Northwestern next week?
Yeah, so if they win, they're 3-2 now, 4-2. Yeah, 5-2.
But
right.
You don't want to put the cart before the horse, but like those would be 2 good wins to get. And yeah, you can maybe give yourself a little buzz, because I mean, I don't think I'm out of line saying this. Right now, there's just not a lot of buzz with Badgers football.
No,
not as much as there's been, and that's just kind of on field. Like, they, prior to last week, they haven't really given much to get excited about. It's just been kind of a slog a little bit, but we'll see. If they can build off last week, and again, Purdue's not a good team, but you know what? Hey, they haven't beat very many teams that they should beat by that much very often, in the Luke Fickell era. So, we will see.
Yep, I agree. The big matchup is Ohio State traveling to Oregon. So definitely on paper and everything, that looks like one of the best I mean, a couple weeks ago was Alabama and Georgia. That lived up to the hype here. We'll see if this one does here. Still weird to say it's a Big Ten matchup now, but it's also weird to say. It's not weird to say. It's different to say. In the past, there's sort of been, well, this could determine if you're going to the college football playoff. Where now it's expanded, where maybe it doesn't necessarily. If you lose, you're not going to be out of the playoffs. You might just be a little bit down, seeding wise, right? Yeah. Whereas if it was the 4, this one loser, you might like not that.
Alabama might be out because of that loss of Vanderbilt.
Right. Exactly. Where it's. Do you like that? That it's.
I don't know. Like. And I've always been such a Pierce when it comes to bowl season. Like, it's going to bother me that the Rose Bowl isn't a Big Ten team and a Pac-10 team or a Pac-12 team.
Yeah.
But, that's just kind of how it is. So I don't know. Like this, I mean, speaking as a Badger fan, this does give the Badgers actually a better shot at
It does.
So, but I kind of want to see it, and I want to see how it plays out first before I kind of make any.
That's See the case study.
Right, and kind of going off what you said about Ohio State and Oregon, nice little ditty from Colt Bartholomew,
No,
Scott
yeah,
St.
good
Gerald
buddy.
friend of the show, that Big Ten teams this year are 2-9 when they have to cross 2 or more time zones. 4 of the best teams in the conference so far play such a game this weekend. And
Interesting.
One of those, you got Ohio State traveling 2 time zones to Oregon. You got Penn State traveling multiple time zones to USC. Where the only teams that have won so far are Indiana winning at UCLA, and UCLA might be the worst team in the conference. Indiana's off to a great start, and UCLA winning in Hawaii.
All right.
Otherwise, every other team that has made that trip, including the Badgers a couple weeks ago to USC, has lost. And last week, USC making that trip to Minnesota lost to Minnesota.
Yep. Interesting.
And the Badgers have one more of those games on their schedule, and that is Oregon coming to Madison in the middle of November.
That's right.
So keep that in mind.
Kept in mind. All right. Only got a couple minutes to the top here. So tell you what, to kick off the next hour, we'll do cream of the crop. We'll talk a little baseball playoffs, and we'll get back to some football talk out there too. Don't forget to send us your predictions. We'll get to our predictions at the back end of the final hour here. Also, though, I want to throw us out because I want to do a roll call. I want to see where everybody's listening to us from. So text us where you're listening to us from, how you're listening to us, and I'm going to throw you into a random drawing here to win one of those Backer burgers from Princeton Valley. If you haven't seen these things, it's got Mike's Star Market hamburgers, Mike's Star Market Oktoberfest brats, which we've taste tested.
They're very good.
Cheese curds on this thing. It's a pretzel bun. So at Princeton Valley for just this month only. So get on over there, get it. You know it's going to be good with Mike's Star Market. Text me, a little roll call where you're listening to us from. And if you want to throw in there, if it's on online, radio, all that sort of stuff.
The Avenue.
The Avenue over there. So hit me up with text 715-830-1912. We'll randomly select. I'll tell Brandon he's got to pick a number 1 through however many we get. And then we'll hand one out. How about that? Do that?
Yeah.
All right. So you got a while yet. Do this in the final hour here. Okay. Okay. I only got 10, 15 seconds here till the shot clock cuts me off. So we'll start off with a little cream of the crop. I know you don't have my pick for cream of the crop, so I'm not even going to. No, I'm going a completely different route in this thing. And as soon as I say it, you're going to give me a weird look.
Is it Bigfoot?
You know, it's funny you say Bigfoot. It's not Bigfoot, but it's funny because rumor has it, Bloomer Tony, I don't know if you're listening right now. Bloomer Tony, rumor has it, did you see a Bigfoot or you think you saw a Bigfoot? I'm just going to throw that out there. Bloomer Tony, you need to get back to me on this. Okay? All right. 2 in. We got 1 more to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these words. Final hour on this TGIFF. Thank gosh it's a football Friday. Our good buddy Brandon sitting across the way here too for the final hour. We got a few roll calls here. Anybody who texts in roll calls and says where they're listening to us from and how they're listening to us, I'm going to enter you to a random drawing to win one of those Backer burgers. Josh says he's listening from Albertville. John in his truck headed to Minneapolis listening on the app. Our good buddy Richie, the app in my truck in Waunakee. Brandon listening at work in Bloomer via YouTube. Wave to the camera, Brandon. There you go. And then Bugman Brian always listening on 105.1 FM in the work truck. This is a first time texter, so I don't know. Says checking in from the town of Lafayette, listening on the app. Brandon Bergday, one of the best small town paper sports reporters. TGIF M Gint. I don't know if that's over there. So look at you. You got a fan.
Oh, my
man.
goodness. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Lafayette.
We got listening. Another texter here. Scott listening on the truck on the AM 790. All over the place right now.
There we go.
So,
It's good. It's good. It's a variety.
yeah.
You've diversified your listening portfolio.
Yep. Exactly. So keep those coming, and we'll hopefully do it by the end of the hour here.
Yeah.
More the better. More
Right.
the better. All right, Brandon. Ready to do a little cream of the crop here this
I think
morning?
so.
You get the honor since it's Brandon Berg Day.
I guess. You know, I've got to do it, even though I'm not super pumped to do it, but I got to go with the Mets.
Okay.
I mean, knocking off the Phillies, like look, seeing what they've been able to do here these last few weeks, like they're actually finally getting some time off, which maybe they don't want
Yeah, exactly.
the way it's going, but you know how they were able to, make it in on the last day. Obviously, we know they took the series from the Brewers and they went on the road to Philly. I mean, a Philly team, I think a lot of people thought could win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, like that wasn't a fluke. Like they kind of controlled a lot of that series.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, and kind of the scary thing too is with this team, beyond, I mean, obviously they're guaranteed to go to the World Series because of the whole Brewers bump,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to have a lot of money coming off the books here from previous from previous administrations. David Stearns is, for the first time in his career, is actually be able to spend some money.
Yes, he is.
So, I got to give it to the Mets. Eat the Mets.
All right. By the way, I missed this one too. We got this was on the video feed. Willie is in Shawano listening on Facebook.
Shawano.
We're gonna be in Shawano.
We are. I was thinking about that.
In April. How about that? So, Willie, give us some places we got to hit up in Shawano.
Some local maybe establishments that we need to frequent when we're over there for the draft.
Exactly. So, all right, my cream of the crop. Robert Saleh. He got out of that situation. Obviously, you don't want to get fired, and he doesn't want to get fired or anything like that. And he didn't deserve to be fired, in my opinion. They fired the wrong coach. But he got out of a really crappy situation. He's going to be, if he wants a defensive coordinator job next year, he's going to get a defensive coordinator job.
He's going to want whatever job he wants.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So take it as a positive. I know it's not, you don't want to get fired. Nobody wants to get fired, but you don't have to deal with that drama crap mess with the Jets now.
Right.
So, tip of the cap, cream of the crop.
His defenses weren't the problem.
No.
His defenses were great.
Yeah. Here's my issue, too, is that, their interim head coach, Jeff Ulbrich, demoted Hackett. He's not calling plays anymore, which apparently Saleh was going to do as well. And then Saleh gets fired, but the same thing happens. One of those panicky owner things, I firmly believe if Kyle Shanahan didn't call the Jets last offseason and asked about their defense coordinator being the 49ers defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, is this even a thing? Whereas now the Jets like, ooh, the 49ers like this guy. Maybe I want to keep him. Who was the was it Todd Monken or who was the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers for Lovie Smith? And they did that to Lovie. They fired Lovie and then they promoted their offensive coordinator. Or it's the Jason Garrett thing too.
Yeah.
When they fired Wade Phillips. But they fired the wrong guy. And I don't know if you heard Aaron Rodgers' comment about after the
I think
Hackett.
he did where he
is
not after the Hackett thing.
Oh, it was after the news that Hackett got demoted. And essentially Rodgers said that just shows, how committed he is to this thing to be able to want to stick around and all. I'm like, stop. Stop. Okay. I mean, here's my thing too. How much is Todd Downing going to change? First of all, you have to, but how much is he going to be here's the better way. How much is he going to be allowed to change with his quarterback?
Yeah, because how much can you in the middle of the year?
Right.
How much are you going to be allowed to based on who's your quarterback?
Mm-hmm. I saw this pop back up. It was when Aaron Rodgers won one of his MVPs under Matt LaFleur. And I think it was Ben Fennell that actually tweeted this out. And it was from when he won. But Aaron Rodgers made a comment in his thank yous, and he said, "Thank you to Matt LaFleur for making things easier for me." So why wouldn't you want to stay in a similar style offense instead of going back to something that's ancient at this point?
And it is like just watching that. I mean, obviously watching that game Sunday, it's like, man, it was just, and they're not on the same page. I mean, if only there was a certain time in the off season, like a certain sort of camp that maybe happens in like June that you could go to and you could work with your receivers and maybe kind of continue to build chemistry. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist for the New York Jets. So, but it's just a mess.
Yeah, it's
a mess of their own making.
It is. And the thing is, teams won't learn.
No,
they won't learn from this. They haven't learned from other stuff before and all that. And here's the difference that I will say between the Rodgers and the Jets thing to Brady and the Buccaneers. Couple things. First of all, Bruce Arians didn't put up. I mean, he had a strong personality already, and it necessarily wasn't letting Tom Brady take over the team.
Right. Oh yeah. Tom Brady certainly had a voice and everything within the team, but it wasn't Tom Brady's team the way the Jets are.
Right. And we heard, Bruce was hard on Brady and meetings and all that too. Yes, Brady had a voice. Obviously, he helped bring in Gronk and all that. The difference is Brady brought in Gronk, and when Antonio Brown was semi-normal,
sort of.
Rodgers just wanted his friends,
right,
that weren't talented, to come with him.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Gronk is one of the greatest tight ends of all time.
Right,
and even if he was, past his prime, he still had a lot to offer.
Exactly. Randall Cobb didn't have anything more to offer. Alan Lazard got overpaid. All those others, Nathaniel Hackett wasn't a good offensive coordinator.
Right. Bruce Arians has been noted for being a great offensive mind. When you look at what he did in Arizona and then obviously what he went on to do in Tampa.
Right. Yes. And I know when Aaron first went there, he's like, I never played for a defensive-minded head coach, going to be different, going to be cool and all that. Why wouldn't you want to adjust and play in an offensive system that makes it easier on the quarterback? Even when LaFleur got in, they had to adjust to what Aaron wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
He wants to outsmart people by trying to figure out what a defense is doing. That's why he doesn't want motion. He wants to adjust to what the defense gives you and do that. So, my question is, would he ever be able to play for Andy Reid?
Right.
Look at what the Chiefs do, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I don't think Aaron would be able to play in that.
I don't think it makes you less of a quarterback if you operate in those, with those ideas of trying to figure out, using pre-snap motion and stuff like that to see what teams are doing.
Right. Especially at your age, and your goal is to win more. Wouldn't you want to do things that help that process instead of maybe making it more difficult? And in the end, getting people fired because, let's face it, it's still. Why are people getting fired? It's because of the quarterback, right? Because a little indirectly, but you're playing bad because the expectations are that it's got to be a Super Bowl because we're doing all this for you. We brought you in. Now we're going to do this. We're playing bad. Our offense is playing bad. So now people are losing their jobs when they shouldn't be losing their jobs. It's direct. And for his credit, Aaron did say it too. If I wasn't playing bad and if our offense wasn't this bad, Robert probably wouldn't have been fired. And he's exactly right.
He is.
He's exactly right. So I just Jets to me now are a top 3 dysfunctional franchise in the NFL.
Yeah.
I throw Carolina into there with Tepper and that whole situation going on over there.
Oh yeah, that's a
I know like Luca would always he throws Arizona in there because of the ownership stuff over there.
The ownership is goofy, but it seems like they've steadied.
Yeah, like I guess I look at it more in terms of team structure and play.
Yeah.
You know, and Commanders have, I think, turned the corner.
They have, and a lot of that was after getting new ownership. Browns right now.
Oh God, yeah, that's.
I mean, that's the Deshaun Watson contract's the worst contract in pro sports.
I mean,
because they can't get out of it.
No,
unless you pretty much pay him everything, and he's not good.
No, they need to find a team like them when they acquired Brock Osweiler from the Texans.
Right.
Hey, we'll take Brock.
Someone to basically you buy the contract because you know you're not going to be good.
Right.
And you get some draft pick compensation, but it's going to take some time before there's a team willing to do that. And you can't imagine Deshaun Watson's going to get better.
No. And the thing is I really, really, really believe the Browns are just a capable, not even a superstar, just a capable quarterback away from being a good team.
If they still have Joe Flacco, who even at this stage, like I'd seen a stat yesterday that Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown for 300 yards in like 20 games, and Joe Flacco's throwing 300 yards in 6 straight games.
Yeah.
Like obviously throwing for more yards isn't indicative on, hey, that means you're great, but like that says something.
Right. Has there been another player or maybe another quarterback that has done something similar to maybe a little Kurt Warner-esque? Kinda?
A little bit. Like I'm trying to think of a guy who like later on in his career, because I mean Flacco's near the end. Yeah, the first name that popped in the head was maybe Warren Moon, but he doesn't do it as a backup.
Right.
He was still a starter.
Because Kurt, backup, then
but he was
won MVP, won a Super Bowl. Flacco won a Super Bowl, got a lot of money.
Then
fine. Kurt, got hurt. Then Mark Bollinger came in. Then he goes to the Giants, placeholder for Eli. Then he goes to the Cardinals.
And it works.
Matt Leinart was there, so he's kind of back up. But then
he took the job from him.
Yeah.
He won the job and took and ran with it, and had that second verse of his career.
I think. Is it fair to say if he doesn't have that second verse of his career in the Cardinals, he's not in the Hall of Fame?
I think that's correct.
Yeah, I do too. I think so.
Like the peak was great, but the peak, like
Joe Flacco's not going to the Hall of Fame.
No, he's not.
Unless
he's going to the Hall of Fame of making some money. Good on him.
Right. And extending this career because it was looking.
Oh
bad,
yeah, it was. I thought he was done.
Yeah.
But he's made that career, out of that, being that backup that teams are going to want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Credit to him too, because last year was the Browns, and he goes. And I think everybody was like, "Why didn't the Browns keep him?" Now I bet you they're wishing they probably did. Now,
right? Well,
they went with Jameis Winston over Joe Flacco. And then credit to him, but he goes to the Colts, something different, and now he's keeping the Colts relevant. And I know Anthony Richardson's going to be probably playing this weekend.
He's going to be back, but he's kept them afloat. Like that's all you can ever hope for a backup quarterback. If they have to play multiple games, will they give us a chance to win?
It's a credit to the Colts coaching staff too, I think, because you went from Anthony Richardson, which you utilize his legs. He's got a big arm.
Yeah.
Like Flacco's got a big arm. But you go from a mobile quarterback to somebody who is
Pocket.
Not mobile and just a statue. But that's because a lot of times you see these teams. Well, the Ravens did it after they moved on from Flacco and Lamar. Who they bring in as a backup? RG3.
Yeah.
Similar quarterback style. So that's a credit to the Colts for adjusting that offense and essentially letting them throw it and fling it and all that, not just like hand it off, So, but can't spell, can't be, Joe Flacco's an elite quarterback. God, that's something. Richie brought up an additional one, maybe like a Flutie with a Super Bowl.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit of a Flutie one.
Because he had that kind of second. I mean, he was gone
with
for
Buffalo,
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, because before he came back with Buffalo, and he made because he was around. He was with the Chargers. Because wasn't he the other guy with Drew Brees? Or was it? No, that's Philip Rivers. What am I thinking?
But he was with the Chargers.
He was with the Chargers, but I don't think I got my timelines right there.
Right.
But he, but he said, like Rich said, like Doug Flutie. I mean, remember in the mid '80s, he came into Chicago.
Right.
He was brought in. I think it was '86.
Yeah.
When McMahon got hurt with the Charles Martin incident, and he was brought in. But he came in and like kind of jumped to the front of the line, and that didn't work. And then he was kind of gone for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was in the NFL, and then he just reemerged,
Right.
and had a really nice kind of second stanza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's flat. You remember what was the conversation we had where we were going to do a top 5? Was it top 5 quarterbacks that have not made a Pro Bowl?
Well, yeah, there was,
Was
a
that
list.
one of 'em?
Yeah, I think it was.
Joe Flacco made a Pro Bowl, right?
I don't know.
Because let me Google that quick. Because we talked about that.
You found a place that had it.
Did I?
That's all.
I think were we talking about Tyler Huntley? Flacco's never made a Pro Bowl. Tyler Huntley's made a Pro Bowl. Joe Flacco has not made a Pro Bowl.
He would have to be on your list.
He's got to be number 1 right now, right? I think, and okay, I vaguely remember you now, or now that list somewhere. But yeah, Flacco's never made a Pro Bowl. Yeah. Oh, he'd be number 1. It's got to be number 1 on there.
I'd have to see the list.
Yeah. All right. Maybe I'll do that.
You know who would not be on that list because he made a Pro Bowl?
Tyler Huntley.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Bridgewater. But Tyler Huntley made
Tyler
one.
Huntley.
Trying to think who else. Oh, Mitch Trubisky made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Just think this is how pathetic the Pro Bowl has gotten.
Yeah,
That's pathetic. Okay, I'll try to see if I can find that list. We'll take a quick break, and we'll get back talking some more football. Football coming up after these quick words. If it's time to update some of those carpets or floors in your home or your space, workspace, wherever it may be, look no further than Wisconsin's premier flooring store. That's Carpet City Flooring Center right here in Eau Claire. Stop on by, let the entire team there help you find what would look great, what would fit in your budget, but also function the best in your space. That's right, function the best too. Maybe there's certain tiles that would look or work the best in a certain space, like your man cave or bathroom and all that. The entire team there will help you out. Awesome customer service from when you walk into the door all the way to the end with their install teams too. So Carpet City Flooring Center right here in Eau Claire. Go check them out. Go check them out. It's Carpet City Flooring Center, also a partner of the Mobile Man Cave. Shout out to our Mobile Man Cave sponsors, Carpet City Flooring Center, The Elbow Room, Woods and Water Realty, Hy-Vee, and our good friends at Toyson Ford, Greg Toyson and the entire staff at Toyson Ford over there in Brandon's neck of the woods at Chippewa Falls. Building up over there by Toyson Ford too. Getting a lot of
like a sprawling metropolis.
it is. So, but if you're in the market for a new vehicle or high quality used vehicle too, go give our friends at Toyson Ford a visit and tell them that we said hi there too. So, all right, Brandon, we're still taking some more roll calls. Text us where you're listening to us from, so you can be entered to win that Backer Burger from Princeton Valley Golf Course and our good friends from Mike's Star Market. So text us 715-830-1912. Willie has not gotten back to us yet about Shawano. Willie, if you're still listening, Shawano locales to hit up. Maybe Shawano locales to do podcasts or shows from, if we're not in Green Bay. I think we're going to be spending a lot of time in Green Bay.
But
you never know.
but I
You
would
never know.
like to see what Shawano has to offer.
That's true. That's true. Do they still have that really good flea market over there? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
It's always like back when I was a kid, it was like a big flea market over there. Kind of like to go check that out again now that I'm an adult and appreciate some of that stuff more. So, football, we've got, your Vikes are not in action this weekend after disappointing me and picking up another win last week. So, it is what it is at this point. FC North, though, every team's above 500. Got a winning record. Only division in the league right now with that, Brandon.
Take that, AFC South.
When we look at where things stand as we head into week 5? Week 6.
Week
Gosh.
6.
Week 6. And this is the other thing with the Jets thing, not to get on a whole. They could be at first place if they win today or this weekend.
Right.
It's so dumb. But you look at the AFC East, Buffalo's 3-2. They've lost their last 2. Jets have lost their last 2. Miami 2-3, New England 1-4. But Drake make time for the Patriots. I feel sorry for the kid.
And your first start is against Houston, who a few weeks ago we saw them victimize Caleb Williams behind a shoddy offensive line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My thing is, okay, you go with Drake May. You stick with him the rest of the year.
Yes.
You can't bench him.
Yeah. After if it goes bad in a few weeks and he gets beat up, you gotta be like, well,
You got to.
you made your bed. You got to lie in it.
Yep. You got to ride with him. You got to ride with him now. That's why I think it was a little too early.
Yep. I agree.
A little too early.
I agree.
AFC North is weird. Baltimore, after losing their first 2, have now 3-2. Pittsburgh, who jumped out to a 3-0 record, have lost their last 2. So those 2 teams are tied. Cleveland's 1-4. They're awful. Cincinnati has just had some bad luck with some of their losses. They're 1-4. Right. That last week's game against Baltimore.
Crazy.
Insane. AFC South, Houston, 4-1. The Colts 2-3. Tennessee is 1-3. Jacksonville's 1-4. Kansas City's undefeated 5-0. Denver, after dropping their first 2, are now 3-2. The Harbaugh Chargers 2-2, dropping their last 2 after winning their first 2. And the Raiders 2-3. Aiden O'Connell's going to get to start over there. I look at the AFC, Brandon, and Chiefs tier 1. I would say Texans and Baltimore tier 2 at this point. And then I don't know yet about Buffalo. I know they got off the ass. I don't know yet. I don't know about Pittsburgh, although never doubt Mike Tomlin.
Right.
It's just I don't know yet. Denver, I don't know. Are they actually a team that's going to be a playoff team this year? To me, it's just the AFC is Kansas City, tier 1, Houston, Baltimore, tier 2, and then a bunch of unknowns to me.
And the rest.
I don't know how it all shakes. Right now, if playoffs started today, it's Kansas City, it's Houston, it's Baltimore, it's Buffalo, it's Pittsburgh, it's Denver, and it's the Chargers. That's your top 7, with the Jets at number 8. And the Raiders, for crying out loud, are at number 9. They're not that far out.
No.
But then the NFC is even more confusing to me. You take away Minnesota, who's the best team in the NFC?
I think I would say the Lions.
That's probably the most popular pick. Washington's 4-1 though.
Yeah, they are.
Atlanta's 3-2. San Francisco's 3-3, leading their division at 3-3. Detroit would be a wild card at 3-1 because of what Minnesota's doing. Tampa Bay's a wild card at 3-2. Dallas is 3-2, and Green Bay's 3-2. They'd be the 8th seed right now. Chicago's 3-2.
There is no 8th seed.
I'm going through the numbers over there. Don't be a smart aleck. Go back to Stanley. Stop. It's probably Detroit, but you look at Detroit, that could change with a loss against Dallas this weekend.
Sure could.
And really make things interesting. So, I know it's your favorite team. Would you say Minnesota's better than Detroit right now?
I don't think I would. I just,
And you'll find that out next week?
Yeah, I said they play next week. So, but no, I think I would, if you're flat out say, who's the better team, I think I would still give Detroit the benefit of the doubt, even though Minnesota is unbeaten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got some good games this weekend, though.
Yeah, there are.
When we make our picks, and
Yeah.
and we'll get to that. Like, even the early Sunday one with Jacksonville and Chicago.
Interesting, yeah.
Jacksonville just won a game, but I feel like they're better than what their record should be, talent-wise. I feel like they've got
But now
players.
we're starting to get to the point of the year where, is it a bad start or are you a bad team?
That's true. That's true.
Is week 6. This is the third waypoint,
and it's different. I'm glad you brought that up too, because we've only had 3 games of Jordan Love, and he's not been awesome.
Yeah,
he hasn't been awful. But is it okay? Those 3 games are in now. Is that rust off? And now he's going to get kind of into the groove because he played 1 drive in the preseason, which was 3 plays. And yeah, you're right, because everybody says it's those first 3-4 weeks. Now teams, you kind of start to figure out who they are because nobody plays in the preseason anymore. So a lot of these starters, this is their preseason. The first couple of weeks. So I want to see better performance from Love going forward. But you look at Washington, Baltimore now is all of a sudden, hey, now
a doozy.
That's
the battle for Maryland.
Yeah, that's a good one. Tampa Bay, New Orleans, I think loses a little bit now with Derek Carr, although Spencer Rattler, we'll see what the kids got. Chargers and Denver is kind of now interesting with that one. Detroit, Dallas, as we mentioned, over there. Buffalo and the Jets.
It's important. Again, man, it's important.
Do the Jets get that boost of that we see a lot of times where your coach gets fired, your interim gets promoted, so the players just kind of rise up.
They have some energy, yeah.
Something to prove, sort of thing. So yeah, there's some. Hell, the Giants are 2-3, playing the 1-4 Bengals on Sunday night. Daniel Jones actually playing up bad now.
Yeah,
maybe saving his job. So. I know it's not your team, Brandon, but what was your thoughts when you heard the Romeo Doubs thing?
I don't know. That's just one of those things where you're always just like you hear kind of the first report, and you're always just looking for more. Like, okay, what is it? Like, what? I mean, this is kind of one of those things when you have a bunch of receivers that are kind of similar.
Yeah.
That. Sometimes someone's going to be the odd man out, and it's going to be a matter of, how do you react?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big Worm wants me to ask you, with your team, as he calls the Queens, when they play the Lions next week, is that their first big test?
I would say for a couple reasons that maybe it's their biggest test, because they've played Houston, they've played San Francisco. San Francisco not quite at full strength. Houston, was, but I would say
except for Joe Mixon,
which matters.
But still, yeah.
But I would say, I mean, you can change your opinion as the year goes on, but I would say yes then.
Mhm.
Just because.
How dare you diss my Packers? Just kidding.
But no, I would say so, because I think if the Vikings were to win that game, or even say they lose but it's a really close game where basically as long as they don't get blown out, I think you would have people say like, okay, yeah, they lost, but maybe this team is legit because
It
you
is
know,
at home for you.
it's at home. That's helpful. But I would say yes. I think that would be their biggest test to date, not just for caliber of team, but also importance when it comes to division. If you grab an early win over Detroit, then suddenly you're 2-0 in the division with
2-0.
wins over Green Bay and Detroit. Like, that's not a bad place to be.
Right.
But that obviously will not come easy.
I think it sets you up, you as in you are the Vikings, Brandon, for a heck of a run here potentially, because let's face it, when that schedule came out and it was 49ers, it was Texans, it was Packers, it was Jets, and it was Lions, you're like, crap.
It's like, keep your head above water.
Yeah.
If they went, like, the kind of feeling was like, if you go into the bye week 2 and 3, like, that's not bad, because you never want to say, oh, the schedule gets easier, but you look at the middle portion of the Viking schedule and there's more winnable games.
Well, this is after that Lions, here's your schedule. Rams, Colts, Jaguars, Titans, Bears, Cardinals, Falcons, Bears, Seahawks. Then it's Packers, Lions to finish up the last two. You win against Lions, you're going to the play. I will say it right now. You're locked. You're locked in. Locked in. And that would be, and if they wouldn't be, they start off 6-0.
It's happened before.
I know, but if they start off 6-0 and they don't make it, Brandon, outside of major injuries.
Ooh. That would be very interesting, because remember, Kevin
How
O'Connell,
would that compare to your Brewers collapse?
Well, the Brewers collapse is more of a sudden in the playoffs thing.
Yep.
But I don't know. It would be different, but it's something we've seen with the Vikings before.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe
that's why I'm very curious about that game next week.
Yeah.
Because remember, 2016 they started 5-0 and missed the playoffs. That was the
so there's hope for me yet.
That was the Sam Bradford year. When he got traded and Sean Hill started the opener, and they collapsed down the stretch because the offensive line had some key injuries.
And wasn't there something wrong with Bradford's knee or some weird?
That was
thing?
early the next year.
Okay,
and then also there might have been some slight mutiny. That was when they played the Packers at the end of the year, and apparently the defensive backs were not running what Mike Zimmer was calling on defense.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, next year was the Bradford thing where he had the great week 1 and against the Saints on Monday night, and I truly believe that I would have liked to have seen what that Vikings team in 2017 would have done with Sam Bradford if he would have been healthy, compared to Case Keenum, who he had a great year, but alas.
Is this team reminding you of that 2017?
I mean, the defense that defense in 2017 was the number 1 defense in the league, and this one, I think by DVOA they are. So I'm very interested to see how they come out of the bye. Against a really good team, because for the Vikings, when they started 5-0 in 2016, they started 5-0 and then they lost to the Eagles. The Eagles were a good team, but it kind of just started to nosedive a little bit.
Right.
So, and that was, you had a veteran quarterback. I don't say a retread, but Sam Bradford. I think Sam Bradford and Sam Darnold, while they're different, there's also some comparisons you can make as far as being high draft picks, not fully clicking. Sam Bradford, it was more injuries than anything else, but
and some bad situations.
Some bad situation. He got beat up with the Rams.
Yeah,
he got beat up. So I'm very interested in that game next week, just to see how it looks, more so than necessarily maybe what the score is.
I forgot Sam Bradford, Philadelphia Eagles legend.
Hey, that trade led to Derek Barnett, draft pick, who had the strip sack on Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it just forget Philadelphia legend. Sam Bradford.
Yeah,
for the 1 year. Think about that, man. And because they drafted Carson Wentz then, right? In 16, yeah. So nuts. Okay, yeah. Gosh, this has been last weekend was just a weird college football and
it was
NFL weekend, wasn't it?
It was.
You had those upsets in college football, and then you looked at how many close games in the NFL on Sunday. Some were like walk-off victories or last-second plays over
Crazy,
there.
crazy wins. Yeah.
And it was one of those. I feel like we have a couple every year, but last week was that.
It was a great football weekend.
It was. It
was just weird.
It was entertaining, but man. All right. Let's do some picks, shall we? Because we got some college picks. We've got to do some baseball picks. I want to get talk a little baseball coming up here too. So tell you what, let's take a quick break. Last call for any roll calls. Where are you listening to us from? Evan says he's listening to us from a warehouse on Melby.
Hey.
All right. Let's see if we got some unique ones out there too. All right, quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to wrap up this Friday morning. It is time to do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Located right next to the Banbury Place. If you're looking for somewhere just to grab a beverage or maybe somewhere to catch some of the games, catch some of the action, you can head on over to the Elbow Room. Last night's, we had the 49ers defeating the Seahawks. I actually took it as an advantage to try to get some sleep last night, so I didn't watch a snap of the game last night. I don't usually get to go to bed at a decent time, but no Brewers left. I took advantage of that last night. So, but 49ers did win. They got that victory. So 3-3 on the season. Now Seattle, who jumped out to a 3-0 start, 3-0 start to the season, have lost their last three. So let's before we get let's backtrack a little bit before we get to some football picks here. Let's do some baseball picks here, Brandon. So tonight we'll know who will face the Mets in the NLCS. It's either the Padres or the Dodgers. Who do you got in this one?
Well, I picked the Padres to go to the World Series, so I'm going to take the Padres.
And it's in La La Land.
It is. So we'll see the latest round in the battle between Padres players and Dodgers fans, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At least the Mets know they're going to California. They just don't know what part of California right now.
Right.
So I'm going to go Dodgers. I'll go with I think Ohtani has a big hit in a critical situation tonight. So I'll go Dodgers. Manny Machado gets booed louder than Jesse Winker.
Well, Jesse Winker is now public enemy number one for Brewers fans. Manny Machado, you're off the hook.
Yeah. Well, he kind of did it to himself. I know last week we talked about like why, but now when you say I'm going to hate the city forever,
yeah, it's yeah.
I feel like now he's like, okay, I'll embrace this role.
Yeah, he's leaning into it. So
yep.
You know.
So, be weird though when they acquire him at the trade deadline next year. You think Matt Arnold or a general manager cares about that stuff? Probably not, but that would be something. And then we've got the Guardians taking that series has been fun to watch.
It has. It's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Scooble's on the mound though for the Tigers.
I'm gonna go Tigers. I'm gonna go Scooble. He might be the best pitcher in baseball.
Just think about how do you think the Tigers are like saying, "Thank God we didn't trade him at the trade deadline."
Or they didn't. I mean, because they did. Remember, they did trade off some pieces. Marcana they dealt.
Yeah.
But I mean, they got hot. And yeah, like there's something about when you have an ace and he's pitching like an ace, and you know he's going to pitch like an ace, like in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
There's just comfort in that.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I'm going Tigers too.
I'm gonna go Tigers, even though I think in the series I did pick the Guardians initially.
Same.
I like how this set up for the Tigers.
I do too. And that's kind of who I'm honestly kind of rooting for.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
You know, just because I've gotten.
I mean, whoever comes out of this series, I'm going to root for in the ALCS. So.
Yep, exactly. Okay, let's do some college football before we get to our pro football picks. By the way, I did it yesterday, but do you want to chime in on your picks for WNBA finals? I know Minnesota had to win last night.
I mean, I'm going to go to Lynx.
Yeah, they did win.
I mean, and I would have said that before last night, but still, I'm going to go Lynx.
I made my picks too. Do you have Stanley Cup predictions?
Ooh, no.
Okay.
I haven't thought about it. I know the Penguins actually won last night after getting routed on Tuesday. Yeah. So
I went. What was mine? Edmonton over. I think I had Edmonton over the Rangers for mine. So the one I want is Red Wings and Kraken. It's my last year. I'm gonna be a Kraken fan. I'm changing it next year.
You gave him a couple of years. You're going to switch it up?
Well, if the Utah does change it to the Yetis or some sort of I have to. So.
At the very least, you got to get yourself a hat or a shirt or something.
Exactly. So let's do some college football picks here. Let's start off with, I'm going to save the Wisconsin one. Texas number 1 at number 18, Oklahoma. Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas.
Ooh, I'm going to go Texas.
Yeah, I'm going to go Texas.
Quinn Ewers might be back.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I don't know. That team, I mean, or Oklahoma's got some injuries, I believe, especially at the receiver spot. I'm going to go Texas.
Mm-hmm. I'm bringing this one up because I'm actually surprised how low the line is. Number 4, Penn State at USC. Penn State's favored by 3.5.
Well, this kind of goes to what we said about the crossing the country.
Yeah.
Man, and I'm trying not to think of that too much. I'm gonna go USC.
Wow.
I'm gonna go USC in this one.
Do you want the points?
Yes.
So you're covered that way?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going Penn State, and I think they cover. So let's go with Ole Miss, LSU, 9 versus 13. It's in LSU.
I'm gonna go Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ole Miss too. Ole Miss is favored by 3.5 too on this one. So how about number 18, Kansas State at Colorado? I'll throw that one in there. Kansas State's favored by 3.5.
Interesting thing too is Colorado. It's kind of they've been a little bit under the radar a little bit here recently. I think they were off last week, but
They're 4-1 overall.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Kansas State.
I'm gonna go Kansas State too, but I do think if Colorado wins this one,
ooh, it gets really interesting.
It does get interesting, doesn't it?
Yep.
So, they still got Utah on the schedule later on. Kansas is kind of, they started off in the top, but they're
struggling. Kansas struggling.
And I feel bad because it's a good story to have landslide pulled over there now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they've really struggled this year. Ohio State at Oregon. Ohio State, even though on the road, favored by 3.
I'm going to take Ohio State. This is kind of part of the reason I picked USC because I'm like, knowing what we were talking about before, I'm like, I'm not going to pick both of the East Coast teams going to the West Coast, but I'm going to pick Ohio State.
I'm going to Ohio State too. I'm going to go Ohio State. Then finally, Wisconsin taking on Rutgers. Do you want the line for
yes,
this one?
Please.
Okay. The line is Rutgers by 2.
Okay. I am going to take Rutgers. I need to see it I need to see it again from Wisconsin against a better team.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I would love for this pick to be very wrong, but I'm going to take Rutgers.
You look at Rutgers is 4-1. Their lone loss, Nebraska 14-7. They did beat Washington 21-18. I'm going to take Wisconsin, but barely. I think it's going to be, I'm going to go 17-10.
All right. I will take Rutgers like 20-17.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, Dan.
All right.
Dan, okay.
All right. Want to do some pro football picks?
No.
Hey, you made a nice jump. You're on the first page of the league.
I am. I'm back in the hunt.
4-way tie for first, including moi over there, but you're just 2 back right now for
a lot of people within a couple picks.
Yep. So we've got Jacksonville taking on the Bears early Sunday morning action.
I'm going to go the Bears. Earlier in the week, I had the Jaguars picked, but I got a little concerned when Jaguars were not getting into London until like yesterday or today.
They've done this before. It's not their first rodeo.
I know, but I'm going to take the Bears. It's going to be an ugly game because these games are always ugly games, but I'm going to take the Bears.
I'm going Jags.
I hope you're right.
Man, talk about a really good fun one here. And who would have said this at the beginning of the year? Washington, Baltimore.
Yeah. This is a big test. I'm going to take Baltimore, but I'm curious about, as the year goes on, this Cliff Kingsbury offense, because we saw when he was in Arizona could get off to good starts.
Yeah.
But teams have figured it out.
Yep.
And I think Jayden Daniels is extremely talented, so maybe he, that can help kind of mitigate that a little bit. But still, like, I want to see how this middle third goes for Washington now that they've kind of got what they're doing on tape out there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, I'm gonna take Baltimore. I just think they're the better team right now.
I'm going Baltimore too. Everything we pictured Lamar and Derrick Henry being is playing out exactly how we pictured it. You got Lamar with the threat of his legs. He's a top 10 rusher in rushing yards. Derrick Henry is a top 5 rusher in rushing yards. Everything that we thought would happen is playing out. And yeah, I'm going to go Baltimore. And then they're bringing on Dan Pease, bringing him back as a consultant for defense for defense coordinator, which I think is Orr's like 32 years old. To bring in Dan Pease, it's
nice to have that veteran sounding board.
So Houston at New England.
Houston, Drake May, get ready.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Texans too. which is perfect because they're going to have this big ego coming into Green Bay next week. Although Nico Collins is going to miss some time too. So
That hurts.
Tampa Bay at the Saints.
I'm going to take Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers too. Would it matter if Derek Carr's playing this one? I don't think I would change my pick.
I maybe, but I would still probably be like 60-40 Tampa if to make that pick. So
Yep.
Tampa.
Cleveland, Philly.
I'm going to go Philly.
Yeah, I'm going Eagles too. I will say this though: if the Eagles lose this one,
Ooh.
is Nick Sirianni the next coach that gets let go?
I kind of want to see, even though I didn't pick it, I kind of want to see it to happen just to see the response.
Yeah. Colts at the Titans.
I'm going to take the Colts.
I'm going to go Colts in this one too. Chargers, Broncos.
I'm going to go the fighting Jim Harbaughs.
Me too. Got a week off. Hopefully Justin Herbert's ankle's a little bit better. So I'm going to go with the Harbaughs. Steelers, Raiders.
I'm going to go Steelers.
I don't care who's starting quarterback. I'm going to go Steelers.
All right.
For
There are
this
going to be a
one.
lot of Steelers fans in Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Atlanta at Carolina.
Atlanta.
I'll go Hotlanta as well. Lions at Cowboys.
Interesting one. I'm going to go Lions, though. I think they go into Dallas and they manufacture a win.
I think I picked the Lions too. I can't remember what I did on my pick, but I think I went Lions. But go Cowboys.
What'd you say?
I said I'm going Lions, but I'm cheering for the Cowboys.
No, what'd you just say, though?
I said I'm picking the Lions.
That's
but
not
I'm
what you
going for
said.
the
You
Cowboys.
said you said go.
I said go Cowboys.
I just wanted to hear you say that.
I was like, what? Bengals at the Giants.
I'm going to take the Bengals.
I'm going to go Bengals too.
In
They bounce back.
On paper, it looks like a bit of an underwhelming Sunday night game, but who knows?
What version of the Giants are going to show up?
Right.
So, and then Buffalo at the Jets before we get to the Packer one.
Yeah. I'm going to go Buffalo.
I'm going to go Buffalo too. And I know this isn't the proper way to think about it. But if Buffalo would have won last week, maybe I could see the Jets getting this one. But the fact that they're coming off of a bad loss too, so I'm going to go Buffalo in this one. Maybe a little closer game. Maybe a little closer, but yeah, Buffalo. Packers. We got the Cardinals visiting the Packers. What do you got here?
I'm going to go Green Bay.
Yeah.
Arizona's been, I think they're coming off a big win. They've been, let's say, a little better than I thought they would be.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go Green Bay.
I'm going to go Green Bay here too. I'm going to go Green Bay with this one. I think, was it last I saw favored by 5? I think they win. They cover. I'll have to double check if it's still at 5, but yeah, they cover. So, all right, that's our picks and predicts. Let's catch up on a couple of texts here quick. Jason said he's listening from WebMD in Eau Claire. We've got some on the video stream here. We've got Scott said, go Pack. Bloomer Tony, morning, fellas. I don't think my text messages are coming through on the text. They're not, Bloomer. I haven't gotten a text from you, and I'm waiting to hear your story, Bloomer Tony, if you're still listening. Come on, man. Shane said on the video stream, Eau Claire 105.1.
Boom.
So I think we got a couple more. I'll refresh text line, but yeah, Bloomer Tony, I've been not getting your and I'm not patiently. I'm now impatiently waiting to hear this Sasquatch story, Bloomer Tony. You got to email it to me or something here, because I don't know. Maybe Brandon and I might have to go on a Sasquatch hunt.
Ooh. I'd do it.
It's giving me flashbacks of the Medford a couple years ago. Remember? God, I can't believe that actually happened. Oh my!
I can.
I can't.
I can.
All right, there's the shot clock. Where are you going to be at tonight?
McDonald Thorpe at DeRay Field.
All right, there you go. So, have a good weekend, DP and the Danets. They're up next. We'll do this again Monday morning. Hopefully, it's a victory Monday. Talk to you then.